Performance USA, the greatest entertainers in America, as requested by you, the fighting men of the United States Armed Forces throughout the world.
Command Performance.
Presented this week and every week till it's over there. Hello there, men. Here's that show of yours again, Command Performance, coming this time from Hollywood, USA. Tonight's the first letter A emerged itself from the Canal Zone, and it's signed by the Panama Jungleer, and it says...
Just mention us guys at Howard Field, will you? And how's about an earful of our favorite movie star, Miss Jean Tierney?
Your wish is the entertainment industry's command, fella, and here she is, glamorous, gorgeous, Jean Tierney.
Thank you, Paul Douglas, and greetings to the finest fighting men in the world. The talent appearing here tonight makes the studio look like the lobby of the Chinese theater, with all the footprints filled. So here we go. First, for a fellow who never expected to wind up in Panama when he saw the Broadway hit Panama Hattie last year, we present the young lady who stole his heart in that show, and who is now one of the season's outstanding successes here in Hollywood, Miss Betty Hutton.
Life was so peaceful at the laundry. Life was so calm and serene. Life was très-gai till that unlucky day I happened to read that magazine. Why did I read that advertisement when it said, since I rumba, Jim thinks I'm sublime? Why, oh, why did I ever try when I didn't have the talent, I didn't have the money, and teacher did not have the time? Boy! Arthur Murray taught me dancing in a hurry. I had a week to spare. He showed me the groundwork, the walk-around work, and told me to take it from there. Arthur Murray then advised me not to worry. It would come out all right. To my way of thinking, it came out stinking. I don't know my left from my right. The people around me can all sing a 1 and a 2 and a 3. But any resemblance to waltzing, it's just coincidental with me, 'cause Arthur Murray taught me dancing in a hurry. And so I take a chance. To me it resembles a 9-day trembles, but he guarantees it's a dance. My tango resembles a 2-step. Marumba makes people turn pale. The conga goes into a goose step. Till the FBI is the dog on my trail, 'cause Arthur Murray taught me dancing in a hurry. Maybe the stars were wrong. If I ain't a menace to Ruth St. Denis, I'll do it till one comes along. A turkey trot or gavotte, I don't know which, I don't know what, jitterbug, bunny hug, as long as you cut a rug, walk the dog, do the clock, Laney hop till you drop, follow the jack, back to back, cheek to cheek till you're weak. You've heard of Pavlova, well, Jack, move over, here comes the queen of the day.
Thank you, Miss Betty Hutton. Thank you, Miss Betty Hutton. Each week, Command Performance brings to the armed forces the latest sports news, hot from where it happened. Tonight, our sportscaster is the man who was America's unanimous choice to play the part of the late Lou Gehrig, and his life story now being produced here in Hollywood. I give you the Academy Award winner of this year, one of the world's finest fellows any year, Gary Cooper.
Thank you, Gene Tierney. And hello, fellas. The big talk in sports today is the opening of the Major League ball season. Being privileged as I am to play the part of the immortal Lou Gehrig in the new picture, The Pride of the Yankees, You'd expect me to hand the 1942 American League pennant to the New York team. Well, I won't disappoint you. Bill Dickey felt the same way about it when we talked together on the Lou Gehrig picture. Now, Dickey's out to catch 100 games for the 14th consecutive year. Quite a record for a kid like Bill. Of course, as you know, there's a shortage of kids in Major League Ball this year, and more than one old-timer is trying to work the kinks out of his legs for a comeback. For a while, I wouldn't have been surprised to see old Babe Ruth himself back in uniform. Right now, the Babe has taken his licks against a bullpen pitcher named Pneumonia, and from latest reports is more than holding his own. Behind the Yankees in the American League, I'll take the White Sox. That is, if their sound locators pick up a hard-hitting outfielder. Now, they have the best pitching in the league, led by two aging but effective hurlers, Thornton Lee and Ted Lyons. For third, I'll take Boston. Fourth, Detroit. And fifth, the Cleveland Indians. The Indians don't have much of a team left, but the Cleveland fans must chuckle to themselves when they think of a Jap facing a hand grenade tossed by rapid Robert Feller. In the National League, let's pick the St. Louis Cardinals. Command performance is not heard in the USA, so I'm out of reach of any pop bottles that any loyal Dodger fans might heave at me. Besides, we're saving glass these days. After the Cards and the Dodgers, I like the Reds and the Cubs for third and fourth. What's left, you fellows rate for yourselves. And however it goes, just remember this, fellas. As Private Joe Lewis puts it, your team can't lose because it's on God's side. And all of us back here are confident that when you boys get set in your positions and the Axis comes up to bat, they'll go down, brother. 1, 2, 3.
Our thanks to Gary Cooper. And welcome to this letter from a Red Cross nurse somewhere in Australia.
Dear Command Performance, before leaving the States, I heard Arthur Q. Bryan on the Jack Benny Show. The same Mr. Bryan who used to wow us on the Grouch Club. I think he'd be just what the doctor ordered for a couple of my patients. What say?
We say if those patients of yours aren't in stitches already, they will be any minute. For here he is, Arthur Q. Bryan as Raymond Radcliffe, assisted by Paul Douglas.
Greetings, soldiers, sailors, and marines. And the pretty little nurse in Australia who seemed to think I was what the doctor ordered. Believe me, I'm certainly glad to find somebody in the service wants me.
Well, what do you mean, Raymond? Why shouldn't somebody in the service want you?
Oh, look me over, Mr. Douglas. Would you call this a fighting form?
No, not exactly, but surely there's some place you could fit into.
Well, that's what they thought first at the recruiting office. So they placed me in the parachute troops.
Parachute troops?
Right. They sent me up in an airplane to practice parachute jumping. We got up to 11,000 feet, and the pilot told me to jump. So I jumped.
Yes?
I counted 10 and then pulled the whipcord.
You pulled the ripcord and floated like a bird to the ground.
I pulled the whipcord and unraveled my wet flannel underwear.
Oh. Well, how about the anti-aircraft fire?
Well, just as I began to feel the cold, the boys down below started to make it hot for me, and they opened fire on me. It was colossal.
But didn't they know you were up there?
Mr. Douglas, those boys take no chances. They're right on the job.
I know that, but I don't get this idea.
Mr. Douglas, they thought I was a wimp.
Oh, well, I suppose that ended your days with the parachute troops.
That's correct. After that, I was put into the cavalry.
Cavalry? Do you know anything about horses?
Oh, that's a silly question. I know everything about horses.
I suppose you were brought up on a ranch?
I was brought up on Santa Anita racetrack.
Oh, you mean you played the horses?
It was not play, Mr. Douglas. It was business. I had systems.
Yes, I've heard of systems, and none of them ever fail, it says here.
Well, I remember distinctly one system that I used. You may try it if you like.
Well, I'm going into this with my eyes wide open. What was the system?
Well, before I placed a bet on a horse, I looked at the track, I looked at the trainers, I looked at the jockeys, I looked at the horses, I looked at the weather, and I looked at the odds.
And what happened?
I got whooped.
I see what maybe we'd better get back to your attempts to get into the service. I suppose you were kicked out of the cavalry.
Literally, Mr. Douglas.
I think I see what you mean, Raymond.
Well, was it my fault if the horse was slippery?
The horse was slippery?
Well, he must have been. I kept sliding off his wump.
Please. Well, all right, that ends the saga of Raymond Radcliffe in the Army.
Not on your wife. As soon as I was able to get off my feet again, they made me a messenger in the artillery.
Finally, something you could do.
Absolutely. But, Mr. Douglas, the very first time I delivered a message, I had trouble with a sentry.
What happened?
Well, Mr. Douglas, it was a dark night.
Yeah?
Black as pitch. Suddenly I am confronted with a sentry.
Yes?
I am looking into the nozzle of a Springfield rifle.
A rifle? What did you do?
I said, hey, sentry, don't you know it isn't proper to point?
What did the sentry do?
He said, halt, advance and give the order of the day.
The order of the day? Did you give it?
Absolutely. I said, 2 fried eggs, lamb chops, and French fried potatoes on a blue plate.
What about the sentry's rifle?
What'd
Wasn't
you
it
say?
loaded? I said, what about the sentry's rifle? Wasn't it loaded?
Sure, but I wasn't afraid.
Why?
I was loaded, too.
Oh, no.